I am so weirdly nervous about this. G'day folks, Wren here, and today we are going to do the final shelf, and we will be curating my queer shelf. So if you haven't seen any other videos in this series, there's a playlist, you can go watch them. It might make more sense, but basically this is about curating my ultimate shelves in a way. Kind of an unhaul, kind of a book organization video, but it's basically just taking all the books off of my shelf and only putting back the ones that I know I want to read and trying to get rid of the others. It's kind of hard sometimes, and the point of it is to not think of this like you're getting rid of things, but to think of it as you're keeping good things. And for some reason that makes it easier for me to get rid of books. If I'm just thinking about what I really want. Like, instead of keeping books that I saw my favourite booktuber haul once, never heard them review it or anything, but it was on their channel at one point, so I'm like, ooh, gotta buy it. And just making sure that the books that are on my shelves now are ones that I want to read now. Because some of these books have been on my shelves for 6 years and my reading tastes have changed since then. So I organise my shelves by genre. So each shelf is a different genre. So we've done my sci-fi non-fiction shelf, done my contemporary and classics shelf, we've done my paranormal and fantasy shelf, and we've done my horror thriller shelf. The shelf in the middle of all of those is my queer shelf. And guys, let me tell you, I've been putting this off for weeks. It's so hard for me to let go of any queer books, because even if I just see a book that, oh, it might not sound super interesting, but it's queer, I'll buy it just because it's queer. So I kind of need to move away from that mentality, because I don't know what some of these books are about, let alone if I want to read them. But today's the day, because it's finally starting to annoy me that my queer shelf looks really, really unorganized while all of the rest of them look quite nice. My queer shelf here is stacked as high as it can stack, and it is 2 layers. There's so many books. This is the tallest shelf I have in my bookcase. There's so many books. So many books. Alright, so let's start by throwing them all on my bed. Scary times.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you
drown. It's a lot of books. I'm trying to think of my immediate yeses, and I'm struggling a little bit. Okay. The Falling in Love montage by Sierra Smythe. It just sounds very, very cute. I like cute books. Enclave by Claire G. Coleman. It's an indigenous queer dystopian-ish book, but I'm very interested to read some of Claire Coleman's work. Spell Hacker by M.K. England. I really loved The Disasters, it was very fun, and so I'm very much keen to give more of their work a go. Flashfire and Heatwave by T.J. Klune. This is book 2 and 3 in the Extraordinary series. So I'm keeping them. I've already read The Extraordinaries, haven't read these, but also T.J. Klune is my favourite author, so I will always buy anything he writes ever. Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail by Ashley Herring Blake. I recently read Delilah Green Doesn't Care, absolutely loved it, very much keen to keep reading. I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman. This is the final Alice Oseman book that I haven't read, and I am keen to read it even though it's about music and fame, which I'm not very keen on, but it's Alice Oseman, I want to read everything they write. Passing Playbook by Isaac Fitzsimmons. I have been desperately wanting to read this for a really, really long time, ever since it came out, and I finally randomly found a copy at a bookstore here, so I immediately bought it. It's about a trans kid trying to pass at his new school and falls in love and there's soccer or something. Spin Me Right Round by David Valdez. This is like a queer version-ish of Back to the Future. Nate Plus One by Kevin Van Wy. I really love one of Kevin's works, so I am keen to give this one a go as well, even though this is also about music, which isn't my vibe, but I want to read more from this author. We have Daughter of the Sun by Effie Calvin. This is the second book. I don't know what the series name is, but the first one is The Queen of Eoflaria. I really loved that one, and I was also so interested in the world that I'm definitely keen to give this a go, and I'm pretty sure all of the books are queer. Then we have Juliet Takes a Breath by Gabby Rivera. I'm very keen for this. It is queer and Latinx, and I love that. We have Two Boys Kissing by David Levithan. I really love David Levithan's works. One of his books is my favorite of all time, and this is one I'm definitely keen to pick up. So then The Prom by Shaundra Mitchell. I watched the movie. Actually, my mum came on like New Year's Eve once and was like, do you want to watch this movie? And I was like, okay. I'd never heard of it, and we did watch it, and I had so many emotions because my mum wanted to watch a queer movie with me, and it was a nice thing. I thought the movie was really cute and I want to read the book of it. This may or may not be the final stack of ultimate yeses, which is mildly scary because there's still a lot of books on the bed. Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. Everyone wants to read this. It Looks Like Us by Alison Ames. I'm not super 100% on what this is, but it's like they're stuck in Antarctica and something's coming for them. Like, that sounds like my vibe. History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. I'm so keen to read more of his work. I'm obsessed with They Both Die at the End, and I want to read more of this like soul-destroying queer stories. Then The Wicker King by Kay Ankrum. I have read other works by Kay Ankrum and I love them, and I am desperate to read this one because this one is just messes with your mind a little bit, I think. And 16 Souls by Rosie Talbot. Queer paranormal, hell yes. Also the cover is awesome. Other Ever Afters. New Queer Fairy Tales by Melanie Gilman. It's like a comic anthology-ish. Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Ames. Grumpy old warriors getting back in action. Something about it sounds very fun, and I think the wizard character is queer. Flames of Albion by Jean Z. Menzies. Jean is a booktuber. She's now a doctor, which is cool. She writes books too, and it's awesome, and I'm really keen to read this because like sapphics and dragons and fun times. Nothing to Hide. Voices of Trans and Gender Diverse Australia. Edited by Sam Elkin, Alex Gallagher, Eves Reese, and Bobak Sayed. Then I have Sometime Yesterday by Yvonne Hyde. This is like a haunted house-ish story. And then potentially the last for the hell yes is The Archive of the Forgotten by AJ Hackworth. This is the second in the Hell's Library series. I've read the first, which is The Library of the Unwritten. Really loved it. Definitely want to continue. So that's the yeses. I am going to put these into piles now, and then we'll read synopses and go through them that way. Alright, so my first pile that I made was hardcovers. And out of the 11 hardcovers, only one of them is a maybe. So I'll show you that one first. So the maybe is Burn by Patrick Ness. I like Patrick Ness's creativity in the 3 books of his that I've read. This doesn't particularly sound interesting, and I don't even know what it's about. So this is gonna go in the maybe pile. Okay, then the ones I'm keeping. Detransition Baby by Tori Peters. I did get this from Rabble. I am mildly interested in the story. I'm just also terrified of it because just the word detransition is a lot. I do want to read it, but probably not for a long time. Then We Contain Multitudes by Sarah Henstra. This sounds like heartbreakingly sweet. 2 boys on opposite ends of the school class system, and they have to be pen pals for a while and they eventually fall in love. It sounds interesting, and I'm very kind of keen for that. We have It's Not Like It's a Secret by Misa Sugiura. This is just a girl trying to figure out how to come out, and that there's a lot of other secrets in her life that she has to tell. It sounds kind of interesting. I don't know, it sounds interesting enough that I want to keep it. So then I have Release by Patrick Ness. This one sounds way more interesting than Burn, because this one there's something like a ghost happening, and ghosts are my thing, so that's basically why I want to keep this one. Then Before I Let Go by Mariek Ninjkamp. But this is another one that sounds like heartbreaking. I don't know why I'm so drawn to heartbreaking stories, but clearly I am. Seems like there were two friends, one of them died, now there are consequences. Then I have Ship It by Britta London. I know this doesn't have good reviews, but as someone who is a like self-proclaimed geek, I relate to, you know, writing fanfic about a TV show, making them queer, and then, you know, seeing all the hints in the TV show or the movie, and then being like, oh yeah, I can see how these two characters would actually be queer in canon. And then, you know, the actors kind of crapping all over that. So I am intrigued to read it. I'm gonna cover up a dead name, but this is kind of an epic love story by Case and Calendar. I really love the Case and Calendar books that I have read in the past, so I am intrigued to read this one. And this is also like a friends to lovers situation. Then we have I Am J by Chris Beam. This is just a YA trans story. We have Beating Heart Baby by Leo Min. I'm honestly surprised that this is more on the yes than the maybe, because again, this has like a music kind of theme to it, and just it's so bright pink that it puts me off. If you haven't been able to tell, I'm not a pink person. And then lastly, another one I thought might be in the maybes, that is Only Mostly Devastated by Sophie Gonzalez. This is the one that is kind of a Grease retelling. My next pile is books I've gotten from subscriptions, but there's only 4 of them. For the yeses, have The 30 Names of Night by Zen Chokada. I mean, in some ways this should be in a maybe pile, but I don't know, just the thought of Syrian American trans boy who's an artist, and he finds a journal of a Syrian American artist named Layla Zed that disappeared 60 years before. Something about that just sounds interesting, and it's very much like a discovering yourself thing. I don't know, but it's a yes. Then All That's Left in the World by Eric J. Brown. This is 2 boys finding each other in the apocalypse, thinking they're the only people left in the world, all that good stuff. But reading the back actually made me want to read it right now. Then A Minor Chorus by Billy J. Belcourt. This is it's an Indigenous story, and it seems to be about an unnamed narrator abandons his unfinished thesis and returns to northern Alberta in search of what eludes him. Unnamed narrator? That's cool. A Minor Chorus is a novel about how deeply entangled the sayable and unsayable can become, about breaching the prisons we live inside, and about how ordinary life, when pressed, can produce hauntingly beautiful music. Then the maybe that I have is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. I read the first chapter for my try a chapter tag. This was pretty low on the stack of all the books I read then. You know how sometimes fantasy is just like very fantasy? I don't really care. I don't know, I get like high fantasy vibes from this, and I can't often do high fantasy. And then the next stack I have is books from authors I've read from before. We have The Bane Chronicles by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, and Maureen Johnson. I gave up on the Shadowhunters series after 2 books, and I watched the show and I love the show, but I love Magnus. I'm very keen to read more of his little shenanigans. Then The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. This sounds very different from other Patrick Ness stories that I've read, but it's about, you know, what to do if you're not the hero of the story. Then I have Highway Bodies by Alison Evans. This is queer people trying to survive a zombie apocalypse. And I have Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World by Benjamin Alire Sands. I read the first one and I enjoyed it, and then when I saw the sequel came out I was like, okay, I'll buy that to like complete the series or something. Then Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. I love Libba Bray. Like, there's the special edition of the Diviners series. It was a good time. And this just sounds kind of funny. It's like a satire on, you know, being stuck on an island. There's a bunch of beauty queens there, and they're in gowns and competing with something. It just sounds like it could be very fun. Then I have Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I was really interested when I read the back just then. Girl grows up in a great library and magical grimoires that rattle beneath iron chains and capable of transforming into grotesque monsters. That sounds freaking cool. So there's also a yes. And then the one maybe that I had out of that pile was Furyborn by Claire Legrand. Now reading through it, the fact that it's like a time difference, two-story thing, yeah, a cosmic war that spans millennia. There's 1,000 years difference between these two characters, and I think that would annoy me. And then also just like reading the rest of the synopsis, I was like, eh? Does anyone notice how I've only put 3 books on my maybe pile so far? Okay, so this next pile is authors that I have 2 or more than 1 book from on this shelf. So I'm just going to go through them in the author order. So first up I have You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty and The Death of Vivek Oji by Akwaeke Emezi. And I love Akwaeke Emezi. Every book of theirs that I have read so far has been 5 stars. They're amazing, and I'm obviously going to keep both of these because they're a 5-star author for me, so keeping both of these. Then I have The City We Became and the 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin. I haven't read any of this author's works before, but I am intrigued. But here's the thing, The City We Became, I'm definitely going to keep. It just like this whole New York cities coming to life thing sounds really cool. The 5th season though, I'm going to put on a maybe, because it's the start of a new series and everyone seems to like this one the most and they don't like the rest of the series. And then even just reading the back of this, it's not grabbing me in any way. This will be a maybe, this will be a yes. Then I have Priory of the Orange Tree and the Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I'm keeping both of these, even though they are very fantasy heavy. I mean, look, this one's huge. There's something about both of these that is really interesting. Okay, and then I have The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, A Closed and Common Orbit, and To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. I didn't even read the backs of any of these, but I have tried to read The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet before, and I couldn't. I was kind of bored. So just because of that, and I think these are all part of the same series, I'm not sure, I get really confused with this series thing, but I'm gonna put all of these on a maybe pile. Because I don't know, and I'm never inclined to pick them up, so all 3 of these are going on the maybe pile. Then I have Will Grayson by David Levithan and John Green, as well as the sequel-ish that is very, very shiny, which is Hold Me Closer, the Tiny Cooper story, a musical novel by David Levithan. But I have both of these and I wanted to read this because it's David Levithan, but I don't like John Green and don't actually think I'd care about the story, and I don't really understand what it's all about, so I think both of these are going to go in the maybe pile. Then we have What We Left Behind and As I Descend by Robin Talley. I read the synopsis of both of these and I am so keen for both of them. I can't even describe why, but they both sound really cool, and this one has a genderqueer main character in a relationship that they are long distance relationship. This one is a retelling of some kind of Shakespearean thing. I don't know why, but I somehow get theatre vibes from it. I'm not sure, but I don't know. They sound really interesting, so I'm keeping both of these. Next, I have What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera, and The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. I know most people hate this, like with a passion, but most people seem to enjoy this. Reading the back of both of them, they're both going to be maybes, because this just seems a little too unrealistic for a contemporary for me. This one, it seems like it's got like a love triangle and I don't care about that, so they're both going to be maybes. Then I have Monuments and The Sidekicks by Will Kostakis. I have always wanted to read something from this author, and these are the 2 books of theirs that I have, but I think they're both going on maybes. And then lastly, I have Tell Me Again How a Crush Should Feel and If You Could Be Mine by Sarah Farizan. So both of these are about Iranian main characters, or Iranian-American Iranian. I'm really interested in these and have been for a long time, and this one is about 2 Iranian girls that have fallen in love, but homosexuality is criminalized. exist in Iran. When one of them's parents announces that they have arranged marriage for them, one of them discovers the perfect solution where homosexuality might be a crime, but to be a man trapped in a woman's body is seen as nature's mistake, and sex reassignments are legal and accessible. And then this one is about this girl knowing that she's queer but not wanting to put another other on her label. She's already Iranian American in a mostly American school, so she doesn't want to be othered any more than she is, but then she starts liking someone. I'm not sure, but I'm really keen to read something from this author, and these two are just, they seem really good. And you know what? I didn't get rid of it. I put so many of those books on the maybe pile, which is kind of awesome because I was really worried there was going to be like almost no books on the maybe pile. That's awesome. I'm very happy about that. Okay, the next pile that I made was just extra large paperbacks, and unfortunately I'm keeping all of them. So I have Black Leopard Red Wolf by Marlon James. I mean, the cover's gorgeous, but also just this African history and mythology, and there's like creatures and trackers. It sounds cool. Next I have In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland. I'm gonna keep it because there's like polyamory and souls, and I'm gonna give it a go. Then we have The Mercies by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. This sounds so freaking cool. There's an island of women, and this one guy comes along and it's like, huh, need to snuff that out. But, you know, independent women succeed. Epic. Also says inspired by the real events of the Vado Storm and the 1621 witch trials, which is very cool. Then I have The Black Veins by Aisha Monet. It's about magical people driving around in a van, and this is the bit I love. It's the no love interest found family adventure you've been searching for. Cool. Then Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Carol Rivka Brunt. This sounds devastating because I think a queer man dies and his partner wants to meet guy's niece. It's a tender story of love lost and found, an unforgettable portrait of the way compassion can make us whole again. Then I have The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. I was a bit on the fence about this one as well. I thought maybe I should put it into the maybe pile, but lots of people really love it and it's got a good amount of feminism in it, so I'm pretty keen for that. The feminism plus witches sounds cool. And then the last large size paper book I have is Cute Mutants, Volume 1 Mutant Pride by S.J. Whitby. This just sounds like the funnest, craziest kind of sci-fi story, because it's like this one, our main character always wanted to be an X-Man, but she doesn't have people skills. She makes out with someone. Actually, I shouldn't say she, I don't know what their pronouns are, but our main character makes out with someone and then suddenly they can talk to objects, like my pillow, who's far too invested in my love life, and my baseball bat, who was a pacifist before I got a hold of him. That's funny. That sounds absolutely wild and I'm very much looking forward to it. And then the next pile-ish I'll do is just kind of piling them into various color scheme things, and then we'll be done. Okay, this final stack is many small stacks. They are in some kind of color order, so let's go through them. For the pink-ish colors, I have Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. I am intrigued about this one because it's a like fake marriage, but it's more about this character finding herself after completing her PhD, so it sounds interesting, so I'm going to keep this one. Then I have Alex in Wonderland by Simon James Green. I do want to read some stories by this author, even though I think they might be a little too YA for me, but the only thing really interesting about this was that our main character works at it's called Wonderland, like a amusement park. I don't think I care about anything else though, so this is going in a maybe. Then we have Queens of Geek by Jen Wild. Sasha from the lovely Sash Reads bought this for me recently and I really want to read it, so this is definitely a yes. But it's like cosplay, cons, like conventions and geek culture. It sounds really good and I'm really keen to read this, so this is definitely a yes. And then I have Mostly Dead Things by Kristen Arnett. The thing that intrigues me about this is that it's about like a taxidermy business, which I think is very cool. But then it seems to be a lot of like family drama, which I don't care about as much. So this is going to go in the maybe pile. Then the two yellow novels I have are Two Night Owl from Dogfish by Holly Golden Sloan and Meg Wolitzer. This could be fun, but the queer rep is just parents of these kids. And like, while that's still fine and it sounds fun because the kids go to a camp, I don't know. So this is going in a maybe. Other yellow book is Tin Man by Sarah Winman. I don't really know what this is about. It's like there was a painting and there are two boys, and as they become men, someone joins their lives. I don't know. This is also going to be a maybe. If you've read it, let me know what it's about, because I don't understand. So for the greens, I have Grasshopper Jungle by Andrew Smith. Grasshoppers come to Earth. Apparently they're horny. I don't understand, but it sounds very fun, so I'm keeping this. I have Pink Slip by Katrina Jackson. Seems to be a little like poly romance. I'm down for that. That's also a yes. And then Anything But Fine by Tobias Madden. This is a kind of YA where a male ballerina breaks his leg and now can't dance, and he falls in love. Something about that is very interesting to me, so this is also a yes. And some of my white books is Pantomime by Laura Lamb. It's a circus thing and it sounds very interesting. I've Asked the Passengers by A.S. King. Girl tells her secrets to airplanes and somehow people on the airplane hear, maybe? Sounds interesting. And Invisible Boys by Holden Shepherd. It's an Australian queer book about three teenagers and the secrets they have. I'm intrigued. Then the blue books. I have Fortune Favours the Dead by Stephen Spotswood. I'm gonna put this in a maybe because it's a historical murder mystery thing, and I'm not the biggest fan of murder mysteries, so I'm gonna put it as a maybe. Then I've Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki. This sounds phenomenal and I'm excited. Then I have Foolish Hearts by Emma Mills. The only reason I hung on to this was because it had these kids producing a Midsummer's Night's Dream performance, and that is my favourite Shakespeare. I love it, but I don't care about anything else, so I'm actually going to say this is a no. This is my first no, and we're nearly at the end. Felix Yiz by Lisa Bunker. It's about this young kid that was fused with an alien when they were younger due to their dad's failed experiment. That sounds cool. And then I have Less by Andrew Sean Greer. Queer man is invited to his ex's marriage, doesn't know what to do, goes travelling, kind of discovers himself maybe, but it sounds kind of interesting. Then my black books. I have Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. This is a historical sapphic thieves story. I think I am going to put this on a maybe though, because historical's not always my thing, but if it's good, let me know and I'll read it. And I have Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. Historical zombie war thing. I'm going to keep it. It's kind of interesting. Then I have Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. It just sounds like a really weird book and I can't explain it, but it sounds cool. There's an asexual marriage as well, so. And I have Eon by Alison Goodman. This had something to do with dragons, and honestly I'm also going to say no to this one. Doesn't sound like my thing anymore. Then This Is Where It Ends by Mariek Ninjacam. I can't say that name, I'm so sorry. But this is about a school shooting. I don't know how I'd go with that, so I'm going to put this on a maybe pile. Then the very, very last book is Lost Boy by Sassafras Lowry. It's a Peter Pan retelling, but queer grunge. I don't know, but I love Peter Pan retellings, so I'm going to keep this as well. So I actually managed to say no to 2 books, which is at least something. I have a lot of books on my maybe pile, like quite a lot of books on the maybe pile, and I may or may not have enough room on my shelf to make it look pretty, but we'll see when I actually prettyify it. So I totally forgot to film a prettyified clip, but I tried to do a bit of a rainbow. There have been some additions to the shelf. And then I've got a bunch of blue and black books at the back there. So it is still very, very full, but it is definitely prettier. Now I just have to read them all. But now all the shelves are looking prettier. And there's a bonus chopper. So once again, I forgot to film an outro clip to this series. Thank you so much for watching this video of me trying to get rid of some of my queer books, but really just making sure I wanted to read all my queer books. This was definitely a difficult one to do, because I love my queer books, but I'm really happy with all the choices that I made. And if any of those maybes you think should be yeses or nos, please let me know down in the comments. And thank you so much for coming along with me on this series of trying to find the ultimate riz to my shelves, however you want to call that. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.